touched upon mental health a little bit. Let me probe you more on that. So, my first part of the question is, how do you understand mental health? What are your thoughts about it? How do you define a healthy mind? And second, what are the ways in which we as human beings take charge of our own mental health? Meditation and mindfulness the only two ways that we can do it? And is there a difference between the two things? Is there a difference between meditation and mindfulness, or are they just similar or just two words for the same thing? So, your thoughts?
So your questions are, how can we have better mental health,
Correct.
and difference between mindfulness and meditation? Okay, so let's deal with question number one. So the WHO, it said that most of the modern day ailments are caused because of people overthinking stuff. It's a mental issue. Now, of course, we know that the brain controls the rest of the body, right? But the brain is a tool, but unfortunately it controls the rest of us. So, and if there's too much of activity happening cerebrally or in the brain, there's too much of thought that's happening, what that does is it influences our overall health. So it becomes very important for us to realize the fact that overthinking stuff is not necessarily healthy, right? Now, unfortunately, in our society, our brains have been trained, especially so our left brain, which is the logical or the thinking part of the brain. It's been trained to think more and more and more, analyze, look at things logically, refer to data or history or experiences, and try and come up with certain arguments based on all of these touch points. But what happens is, because of that training of the mind, it's constantly ticking. So imagine, like, if the mind were a rubber band and it was constantly ticking, or you're just constantly pulling a rubber band, there's got to be some give. And at a certain point, that rubber band's, it is going to be compromised. And when the brain gets compromised, what really happens is that it manifests itself into some sort of a physical ailment. You could have blood pressure or cardiac issues, or even a common cold, because immunity comes down, because most of your energy is being siphoned off towards the thinking bit, and the other immunity and the other facets of your body, they come down a little lower, right? So it's important to realize that we need to bring these number of thoughts into control. Control is probably not the right word, but we need to manage these thoughts. So good mental health, in my opinion, the first step, the stepping stone to being mentally healthy, is being aware of how the brain functions, and ensuring that we don't overwork it. If you are on a computer and the brain's like the motherboard or the processor of the computer, you overwork it, and then the computer just hangs, and then you're stuck. So you don't want that to happen to the human mind. You don't want it to get hung or crash. It's definitely not crash, right? So you realize that this motherboard or this processor of mine, which people call the brain, it needs some relaxation time or some chill out time, right? And I'm not saying meditation is the only way or yoga is the only way of doing it. There's numerous ways. I mean, you could just sit down, lie down on your back in a garden and just gaze at the ever-changing shape of the clouds. Or you could sit by a stream and just listen to the sound of the stream. Or just look at the waves crash on a beach. Different ways to slow yourselves down, right? But meditation, yoga is taking it to a different level. I'm not saying a higher level or a lower level, but I'm saying on a different level. So once you realize, that your mind is the cause for happiness or sadness, how you manage your mind is the reason behind it. I mean, that's the beginning step to being healthier mentally, right? Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what meditation is, or what one of the goals of yoga and meditation is. So the primary goal of yoga is to try and develop a single point of focus or concentration. And similarly, in meditation also, one of the primary goals is to achieve that single point of focus or concentration. So when one meditates, they try and develop like tunnel or laser vision, actually, where nothing else exists except for the point that they're focusing on. And very often that point is your breath, or the sensation of the breath on the tip of your nose, or the rhythmic movement of your diaphragm or your belly when you breathe. Or at a later stage, it's not even your breath. You're just in a space of absolute nothingness. I mean, where the vibration of your brain, it's close to being zero, where your brain is just at complete relaxation or peace. Imagine like a tranquil lake, right? And this tranquil lake, which is just absolutely smooth and plain, and it's majestic, and it's reflecting the blue sky and the scenery around it. Your mind's a bit like that when it's tranquil, right? It's like that lake without anything on it. It's just peaceful and calm. And imagine tossing like a pebble into that lake and try and picture what that pebble does to the lake. There's these concentric ripples of waves, and each of those waves is like a thought. So when the thoughts are happening, it's like those ripples in the ripples in the lake. And what meditation is trying to achieve, that complete tranquility, where the vibration is super, super, super low, right? Of course, there are different levels of meditation, which I'm not going to jump into right now, but imagine being able to achieve that tranquility or that peace. Imagine being able to rest or shut down the processor or the motherboard in this computer while being completely aware. So in a computer, you turn off the computer, the power goes off. That I would equate to death in a human being. But now how meditation is different is that you're aware, you're alive, and yet the motherboard's at complete rest. All the energy is within the body. And at any given time, 35% of the energy goes to the brain, right? So when the brain is silent, that other 35% of the energy is again focused towards your internal organs and the rest of your body, helping you heal and recover. So now let's talk a little bit about meditation and being mindful. Are they separate from one another? Perhaps, but they also have a ton of similarities between them. So once we start to meditate, what happens is we are very aware of what's happening within us. We start focusing on our breath. When we focus on our breath, we're aware of our emotions. When we're aware of our emotions, then we can manage our reactions or the way we react to a particular scenario much better. So once you begin to meditate, you unravel a lot of different kinds of wealth. One of the wealths that you unravel is awareness. So when you dive into yourself and you start getting to know yourself better, then what happens is you are functioning at a much higher state of consciousness or awareness. And with that sense of awareness, you are in charge of the way not only you react, but how you feel. I mean, if I were to ask some of you, take your hand, put it on your heart, and close your eyes and try and tell me what you're feeling right now. What is the emotion? And emotions like love, hate, jealousy, greed, very few of us will honestly be able to pinpoint what emotion that we're undergoing. But once you start to meditate, you're much more connected to yourself emotionally, right? And you know yourself much better. So you've got a higher sense of awareness. You see the difference? And once you have a higher sense of awareness, you can turn anything that you do into a task of pleasure that brings you happiness. So what happened recently is we've had this lockdown, and in India, as you know, we all have most of us have housekeepers. So my housekeeper has not been allowed to come in, and my washing machine broke down. So, and it broke down about 30 or 40 days back now. So I volunteered that. I put my hand up and said, I'm going to wash the clothes here. So I began to wash the clothes, and I began to, on the second or third day, I began to find joy in washing, an activity like washing clothes. And I really haven't been washing clothes for many years. I began washing clothes, and this is washing clothes with my hands. And I started finding joy in washing clothes, because what that heightened sense of awareness, it made me realize is that, Nimish, if I am really cribbing about washing clothes, and there is that, 45 minutes or 1 hour every day or every alternate day when I wash clothes, is that's time that I have really not lived. So that's the sense. So I had a sense of the first day I washed clothes, I wasn't jumping with joy, Puneet, because I'm also still seeking. I am not an enlightened being. I wasn't jumping with joy. But the second day, what meditation did, it created a sense of awareness. And I realized that, I'm better off not complaining during that 1 hour when I'm washing clothes. And I'm better off being happy and content just washing clothes. It's an example of what awareness can bring about in your life, the change it can bring about in your life. Right? I hope that explains and answers both your questions, Puneet.